Happy Monday. If this is your first time opening up a newsletter from me, my name is Alice Foy. I am the owner of The Digital Jane, and I am also the team operations strategist. Now, this is the second time I've recorded a video to support the newsletter. I know that we are busy, a lot of things are moving, so even if you just have a chance to listen to part of it or to watch, I appreciate it. And since I got so much great feedback last week, it looks like this is going to be my new thing. Just wanted to note that you can also leave comments directly on the little Zoom side panel. We got some last week, or just reply directly to the email if you have any questions or thoughts or anything. I really appreciate it all. So last week first before I jump to this week, last week we talked about how to handle it if a team member isn't performing well, whether they are an employee, a contractor. You want to make sure that we are getting right to the point with that and not waiting until the next performance review. If you missed that one, you can go back and watch it. I included the link in this email. But this week, I want to go back to the root. A lot of what happens in that first 30 days and first 60 days when we start to notice someone isn't a fit, we probably could have avoided getting so far in the process if we would have vetted them better during the recruitment process. And what I mean by that is that I know a lot of times when we have to hire, it is a need. A lot of things are moving. You're doing rounds of interviews. Time is money. You need to get someone in right away. So you may be ignoring some of the things during recruitment that you normally wouldn't. So I included 3 quick reminders in this newsletter, and we're going to talk through them today. But first, I have an example. Back in, I think, 2019, I was senior producer over a festival and a conference. And these 2 big things were happening 10 days apart from each other. So I was given a budget to hire a production coordinator, and this needed to happen fast because if not, I was going to be doing the work of 2 people. So I ended up getting a resume. This young woman had included all of these big events and examples, and I just took it at face value and was like, okay, she walks the walk and she has all these events. She will be perfect, right? A little bit down the line, probably about 30 days in, I noticed that she wasn't taking 2 traditional, typical production coordinator duties as she should. And so I started to ask more questions, peeling back the layers on what her experiences were at some of the events that she had included in her portfolio. Come to find out, not many of them were actually her work, or she had a very small part in them. And so I share that as an example to say, you want to make sure that you are vetting these candidates and prospects in the best way possible with the resources that you have, with the time that you have. If I had have asked the right questions, I probably would have been able to pick up that she didn't have as much experience before the contract was signed, right? And now that things are moving so quickly, there's no choice. I have no choice but to just keep going with it instead of trying to step back, find another, coordinator and doing all of that. So let's talk through 3 things you want to do in your recruitment process to make sure that you are finding the best talent possible. The first thing that you want to do is make sure that you're doing that vibe check. So I always say their first round of interview, it should be, the opportunity to hear more about what was presented on the resume, to ask very specific questions about maybe their working style, to get a feel for some of the projects that they've worked on, and to hear them explain it to you verbally instead of just reading it on paper. You also want to see how do they present. I don't believe in a lot of the corporate professional kind of stuff, but whatever that looks like for your company, you want to make sure that this candidate is in alignment with that. That's number 1, vibe check, right? Number 2 is we want to do a skills check. We want to make sure that this person can do what they say that they can do. And oftentimes, especially with tools like ChatGPT and all these other things on the rise, you want to make sure that this is actually their work and experiences that they have had themselves. And so we want to ask either for a test task or samples of work to kind of back up the experience that they say that they have. Now, when it comes to a mock assignment or a test task or whatever you refer to it as, a lot of people feel mixed ways about that, but here's my point of view on it, right? Before I get into an agreement with someone with a contract, I want to make sure I have the best insight into what they're able to do, what their expertise is, and then also if there's some things that may need to be developed. I need to know that as an employer before I commit to it, because if they're not up to par, that's going to be time, money, and resources that I have to spend to get them up to par within my team. So in my opinion, test tasks are perfectly acceptable as long as, this is where it gets tricky, it takes less than 2 hours for them to complete, right? You want to make sure this isn't some 10-hour plus assignment, that this is a small task that will still give you insight into their actual skill set. You also want to make sure this isn't work or a task or something that you can use. It should not be an actual assignment or something that you can take off and run with, right? We want to make sure that this is just a mock assessment so that you can get insight into work that they probably will be doing, but not actual produced work that you can use for free. Let's be ethical. And then third, we want to make sure that it is in alignment with one of the core duties of their position. So, for example, if it's a virtual assistant, I used to send one for simulated meeting notes. I used to send a meeting recording and ask them to produce, meeting notes with next steps and all of that. Do it in your own style so I can see how you would approach it. And then, of course, I can always provide my template and my preferences once you start. I've also done travel itineraries where a client had a speaking engagement at Facebook in New York and had flight preferences and like all these things. And that was a great way to see how they approached research, how they approached putting spreadsheets together. And so there are so many ways that you can put together an assignment to make sure that it is going to give you some insight. And then for a recent position, we were looking for someone to help us with process development. I asked for either samples of previous work, or you could do a mock assessment. And if they had work samples, I would take those, right? And I would accept those. So it is all depending upon what you prefer and what works the best based on the position. But you want to make sure that we're doing some kind of skills check and then also peeling back the layers on what has been presented on the resume. And then third, last but not least, I still stand by this one, reference check. There is nothing wrong with asking for references. It is not just an old school practice. We want to make sure that we are either asking for a past client information. You can just send off a quick email. Maybe it's, testimonials. You can make a heart, take that one based on what feels good for you. But client testimonials could be another great way, or asking for their past employer. So depending on whether or not you're contracting or employing someone directly, the reference check may go one or two ways, but at the end of the day, it's all about making sure that this person can do the work that they say that they can do, and that there are some people who will vouch for it. So in my experience, when you have a thorough vetting process and recruitment, it will save you the time of bringing someone into the fold, thinking you got them trained, thinking you can hand stuff off, and then finding out they're not capable. As always, if you need support with your process development, the Digital Jane can help you. We can support you. Either comment on this Zoom video, you can respond to this email, and I also included a link to book a strategy session with us. And for clarity, we jump in after the HR process. Although we do know how to streamline HR, my specialty is making sure that each position on your team has the resources that they need in order to be successful. This could look like training materials. This could look like processes for their specific position. This could also look like developing a workflow so that they have a daily, monthly, weekly, quarterly cadence for the way that they approach work. So all of these things need to be considered so that your team members are equipped for the best work days. I hope you all have a great week. If you have any thoughts or comments on this, please feel free to respond to this video. Are you using a mock assessment? Have you had any success? Has that helped to vet candidates for you in the past? If not, what are some of the things that you're doing? I would love to hear from you. Bye.